Before we get into the video, just a little bit of a warning. We live streamed our unboxing of all this, which you can go check out at Solar Flight Productions Facebook page. You may see some cutting back and forth between this footage and the footage from the actual unboxing, but in any case, this is still an unboxing video, not a full review, so hang on tight for that. We will be doing one of those in the future. Just get subscribed so you don't miss it, and yeah, let's get into it. Hi there, my name is Garrett, and welcome to the channel. I've got something super exciting to share with you today. I am anxious to get it out of the box. This is a big next step for my company, for me and my wife, and our passion for filmmaking and delivering quality content to our clients. First, a little bit of context. The image you're seeing right now is from a Canon EOS C100, a camera that was originally released in 2012. Now, for the last 5 years, the C100 has been our main camera. We rented them, we borrowed them, and eventually we bought our own back in 2017. The C100 outputs a 1080p video compressed into an 8-bit color space. I can shoot for hours on the thing. It has incredible battery life, and it has a bunch of helpful little tools like the built-in ND filters, focus peaking, and waveforms. There's a lot more to it, but I'll leave it at this. It's a nifty little camera, and I've been able to shoot some of my favorite images with it. I've even shot stuff on the C100 that rivals or beat some of the stuff that I shot on a Red Monstro VistaVision sensor. So that just goes to show you it's the operator, not the tool, but the C100 has been great for us. When we bought it in 2017, we made a choice to commit to a 1080p system for the next few years because basically 4K wasn't really all that important to us or our clients at the time. What did matter was accurate colors, flexibility, and the ability to work in a variety of environments without downtime. So all of those fancy new, at the time in 2017, 4K DSLRs that took 2 batteries an hour just were not going to cut it. And I still believe that we made the right decision. The C100 has served us well for half a decade, and in fact, it will continue to do so as a B-cam and a streaming camera. But now it's 2020. 4K is here, it's not going anywhere, and many of our clients are now asking for a 4K delivery, and as well they should. But I'm not interested in just delivering any old 4K. I want the best 4K I can get my hands on, and I want it in a sturdy, reliable package, something I know I can count on, that will shoot well, and will be fun to work with. And that is where this comes in. Inside this box is basically my dream camera. Now, the last time I unboxed something on stream, I couldn't get it out of the box, so I'm hoping that today's a little different. There we go. There it is. It's gonna be one of those boxes that you can't just pull it out easily. Okay. One second. There, you're gonna pull from that side? This is the Canon EOS C300 Mk III. And this camera is, it's just the bee's knees. It's great. I'm really excited. There's a rather large hole in here for 3 sheets of paper. Seems unnecessary. We've got warranty information, hooray, and we have our manual monitor cable. That's our monitor, which is much bigger than the one on the C100. Part of the handle assembly. I can go over there. Here's the other part of the handle assembly. Strap, which is useless. Little mounting brackets and stuff. Guess this is power cable. Cool. Wrenches. Charger. Battery. This is the battery, and this thing looks huge, but this is actually the smallest one we have. Cool. Other part of our power adapter. Microphone holder. And here is the star of the show. This is the camera body. There it is. I'm so happy. It's Christmas. It's definitely Christmas. This is the 4K camera that we've invested in. It's going to change a lot about how we handle our productions and the kind of images that we can deliver to people. Yeah, so this camera body is a little bit bigger than the one that we're used to, which is actually good because when we're shooting handheld stuff, being able to have a little bit more weight actually stabilizes your image a little bit. So let's talk specs. First, frame rates. This will do 4K at up to 120 frames per second with no crop on a super 35mm sensor, and it will do it in RAW. This means options for slow motion that we've never had the ability to do without renting a camera package. If you've seen the video we did for UMHB, the University of Mary Hardin-Baylor, the slow motion shots there were shot at 60 frames per second, then slowed down to about 40%. For comparison, this camera is capable of making things twice as slow as that in RAW. It's a game changer, and we can pull off shots we've never been able to do before, which is so exciting. That creative freedom is just the bee's knees. Now, something else I'm very excited about is dual pixel autofocus. For a long time, autofocus has not been an option with what we do. You can't have focus hunting going on where the camera's going zzz, 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 and then finding it. It needs to be smooth. You need smooth focus pulls. This camera has a very refined autofocus system where you can customize the speed and sensitivity of the autofocus. But even better yet, it has face tracking. So when shooting interviews, I can get my hands completely off the camera and focus on the dolly or on talking to my subject. For someone who often has to work alone and doesn't have a focus puller, this is very exciting. It could also mean less takes due to missed focus. We've had instances where if I could have just tracked someone's face, we could have done 2 less takes than we did. But because I was operating the dolly, the tilt and pan of the camera, and pulling focus, it just got insane. With this camera, we now have timecode. And so this, let's see, it's this one right here. So what timecode lets us do is sync our audio recorder and our video recorder, this camera, on set so that when we get into post-production, we can hit one button and sync everything. In here is one of the things I'm most excited about. This is a new sensor from Canon, something that they have never done before. In this camera's price range, there's nothing out there like it right now. This is called a dual gain output sensor. And the short and quick of it is every time it captures a frame, it scans it twice. Once at a higher exposure to get clean shadows and make sure that there's detail in the darker parts of the image, and another time with a lower exposure to get the clouds and the highlights and all of those brighter parts of the image. And it combines those 2 exposures so you get an HDR image basically anytime you're shooting. It does only work at under 60 frames per second, but in slow motion, you really shouldn't be underexposing anyway, so it won't matter. This has a dynamic range of 16 or more stops when shooting in Canon Log 2. The C100 has, I think, 11. So those extra doublings of light that we can get and actually have exposed properly means that a lot of our shots are going to have nicer highlight roll-offs, which is something that cinema cameras are really good at, that a lot of prosumer cameras are not. And it just makes everything look like it's twice as expensive, even if you don't have the time to set up lights. You should set up lights whenever possible. Not saying you shouldn't, but gives you a little bit more freedom. I guess we should probably build this thing out and see what it looks like all together. Let's quickly run through some of the things we've added to our camera package. We've got our hands on the Canon EU V2, and it adds 2 additional XLR inputs for more audio channels. It also enables Genlock, which means we can work in live broadcast scenarios where all the cameras need to be synced. And it adds a V-Lock battery plate to the back of the camera so we can use some big honking batteries and never worry about power. I mean these big honking batteries. Now these are only 98 watt hours so that we can fly with them, but there are bigger ones too. Now, to address the elephant in the room, because we are in the season of camera releases, there are cheaper cameras that do some of these same things. The newly announced Sony a7S III has 4K at 120 in a small mirrorless body, something more akin to the size of this battery. And the Z cams offer 6K for less than $4,000. The new Blackmagic Ursa Mini Pro 12K does, well, you guessed it, 12K for $1,000 less than what this camera costs. But here's the thing. The A7S doesn't have the built-in ND filters or the timecode options or the internal RAW recording. I can never use it with Genlock, and I can't get 4 XLR inputs in it. The Z Cam, while it has great image, has firmware issues. It has monitor output issues. And the group on Facebook that I'm in where people love them is also riddled with questions on why their camera just stopped working properly or stopped working at all. That's not a professional system, at least not yet, but that doesn't mean they won't be. I'm hoping that Zcam is able to work out all those kinks and that becomes the new standard for budget cinema cameras. That would be wonderful, but for right now, I need something I can rely on every job, and the Zcams just aren't it. As for the Blackmagic, well, it can only shoot in B-RAW. If I edited only in DaVinci, that might not really be an issue, but the thing is, I use Final Cut Pro as my primary NLE, and often I'm handing footage off to another Final Cut or Premiere editor when I'm done shooting. So B-RAW not being compatible with those programs natively is an issue. And for shows like Moving with the Military, RAW is straight up not an option. The workflow is too fast, it's too hectic, and it needs smaller files to keep the show moving. So, this camera, the C300 Mark III, ticks all of those boxes. It's a form factor I actually enjoy shooting with. It has all the little tools that make your life easier just built into the camera, and it has the Canon pedigree that lets me know I can trust it. After all, the last camera I bought from them is 8 years old, and she's still not being retired. All that said, I'm looking forward to getting this out and actually shooting with it, so stay tuned for some test footage and a full review coming later. We're about to get into some projects with this camera, really putting it through its paces, and we will report back once we've gotten familiar with it. Thanks for watching. If you want to see more content like this, just subscribe by hitting that button below. And make sure you hit that bell icon, then yell, "Reginald!" and you'll get a glass of warm milk brought to your bed.